has to do with the fact that, look, you know, if you really want to talk about the experience of being a traditional wife, it doesn't look like this content that we're being shown with the 1950s housewife, like that niche, right? Where they're like cooking all day and they make this beautiful breakfast and they're all glam in their hairs and rollers and they get dressed up for their husband. Because so many of us, and probably the majority of us, that is just not our experience as wives. Being a traditional wife is messy. It is little fingers under the door when we're trying to go to the bathroom. It's Menti B's. It's, you know, the house being a mess when he gets home because they've gotten out every toy in the house because we actually played with them and they played with each other. It is homework, it's being late, it's shuttling kids from activity to activity. It's every time I need to do something for myself, my child didn't get something that they needed. This thing that's being put out on the internet for most of us, the postpartum period isn't us all dressed up in a bed looking beautiful, you know, with a photographer. This doesn't resemble the majority of our experience. So when we see this content, we have like this visceral reaction like, my life doesn't look like that. My life is messy. It's hard. It's postpartum depression. It's weight gain and getting used to this new body. It is trying to have a relationship with my husband and be a good enough parent at the same time. And this content does not reflect. It is not relatable. So if it's not relatable, then what is it? It's fetish. That's what it is. It's fetish content. It is like softcore corn for men. So we're realizing that this content isn't for us. And when this content is put out there and it's grabbing men's attention, it's like saying that that's what we should be like. And that's why it's offensive. So for me, as a traditional wife, there are not many of that type of content that I follow or even look at because it just doesn't mirror my experience and it irks me. And I finally figured out why. Now, am I saying that being a traditional wife is something to be ashamed of or something that you can't document at all? No, if you're not explaining your children. And I think that's part of it too, is that a lot of this exploits little children who cannot consent to being on the internet. So then you get into like mommy vlogging and things like that. It's glamorizing something that is not glamorized. It is making something look soft and beautiful that is often messy and difficult. It's for the attention of men and not for us. And it feels hurtful and it feels like a betrayal by women who know that that's not what it really looks like. And it's set to get the attention of men. And then we get compared to this content. And I think that's what it is. It just hit me out of the blue when I was thinking about why I don't do content like that. And that's why, because if you saw me do traditional wife content, it would be the yogurt that I was bent over cleaning up off the floor a minute ago. It would be the fact that I had to take a DiGiorno pizza out and scrape the sauce from underneath the cheese because my littlest one won't eat sauce, and trying to disguise that. It's talking about why these kids these days don't like to eat food that doesn't, you know, come out of a wrapper, which I also figured out why that is. It's because food that comes out of the ground that is natural is not consistent. And I just had that epiphany today. The fact that we have all of these picky eaters, that picky eating is because when they grab for goldfish, they look and taste the same every single time. But when they get a banana or an apple, it might not taste or look exactly like the last one. And these children that are growing up in this day and age of electronics where their Roblox game is the same every single time, they want that from their food and they don't want to be surprised. But anyway, that is what traditional wife content really is. But to really show the pain and the day-to-day of it, we'd have to exploit children. So if it's anything else, it's fetish.
This is going to be controversial, but when it comes to the trad wife at 20 to single mom at 40 pipeline, y'all really have no one but yourselves to blame. What do y'all think the second wave feminist movement was all about? The grannies been told us. The aunties been told us. Our grandmothers had to fight the U.S. government to get bank accounts. And barely even 50 years later, y'all are voluntarily giving them up because Connor from English 101 told you he was going to love you forever. What? Y'all, please BFFR. We are so much smarter than this, ladies. Do not trust the relationship decisions you make at a time where your boobs are fully developed, but your brain is not. When you let a man have complete and total financial control over you, he will always eventually fuck you over. At the end of the day, they're always going to have the mindset of, well, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym. The entire stability of your life cannot rely on a man that you marry in your 20s wanting you for the next 60 years, and vice versa, because the T is, what happens when you wake up and you don't want him anymore? What happens when you're ready to walk away, but you have no job experience, no bank account, nothing, because your entire future relied on this guy, this one human being wanting you forever, or you wanting them forever? I love my man down. I would die for that man right now. I truly am in love with him from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head, but I will always love myself more. Always. I'm talking separate bank accounts, prenup, the works. Because when you fail to plan, you're what? Planning to fail. Always remember, if you don't take nothing else away from this conversation, always remember, a man is not a plan. A man is not
traditional girlfriend. She cooks, she cleans, she does the dishes, she changes the sheets, she does the laundry, she does the grocery shopping, she does all the mom things. If you guys have kids, if you want that, if you're the guy that wants that traditional wife, you need to be a traditional man. You can't have it both ways. You can't have a wife that does all the traditional wifey things if you're not going to be a traditional male. If you can't take on the responsibility of providing, paying the bills, being the man of the house, not bringing the feminine energy, then you can't expect a traditional wife. It's just as simple as that. And if you disagree, I would love to know why that is. Why you think you need to have your cake and eat it too. I'm just curious. Let me know.
I think not teaching your child to be independent is doing your child a disservice. And teaching them to depend on a romantic relationship is extremely dangerous. It makes a child way more likely to enter and stay into an abusive relationship. Because at that point, it's not about wanting the relationship, it's about needing it. Because she's not going to be able to financially support herself, therefore she's going to have to stay in relationships even if they are not good for her. And I see this problem time and time again where women are kind of taught these things. And I'm not saying obviously being a stay-at-home mom and stuff is a full-time job, and I commend you if that is what you choose to do. But a lot of times I see when women get in these type of relationships, something goes wrong, the husband cheats, whatever it might be, they get a divorce, and the woman is left with absolutely nothing because she spent her whole life serving her husband and not having any financial outlet for herself. That is in my opinion, a very, very dangerous place to put your child. Obviously, some of these lifestyles are what people agree upon, but teaching them to depend on people, I do not think is a very healthy thing to do whatsoever.